Welcome and welcome back. We're here for a review and reaction to The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3, titled The Heiress, which maybe it's because I've been too distracted taking notes during the beginnings of these episodes, but has the title screen always been at that point in the episode? I don't know if that's something I'm missing. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but let's get into the analysis. The Razor Crest, the ship of the Mandalorian, is a beast. And this goes back to something that I talked about during the reviews of Season 1 of The Mandalorian, and that is that the Mandalorian takes a beating in this, and in that we enjoy him so much more as a protagonist because he doesn't just simply show up and win the day. He struggles with things. He gets beat up. He loses pieces of equipment, loses pieces of armor, loses a little bit of dignity now and again, and he does, on occasion, need saving. Those are struggles through which he might grow. Now, I will take some gripe at the fact that there is so much saving of the Mandalorian going on. It seems that every episode he is getting himself into some bit of trouble that is just too much, and someone shows up heroically at just the right time, as do, and spoilers here, I should have said this at the very beginning of the episode instead of a couple minutes in, but spoilers in this review reaction, whatever you want to call it. I will be talking about all of the things that happen in this episode. Someone shows up at just the right time. In this episode, it was the other Mandalorians, whether they are pristinely Mandalorian enough for Mando himself. And before we get to the next little clarification of what's going on in this episode, the next little thing that was interesting for me to see, the Razor Crest does get beat up, just like the Mandalorian, but it was not until I made that connection that I really understood Baby Yoda gets beat up a lot as well. Baby Yoda got punched in the face by the speeder bike biker troopers, Hell's Angels, stormtroopers. In the first season, he's constantly being put into danger. He gets eaten in this episode. All of these sorts of things happen to Baby Yoda. He is getting beat up. When he uses the Force to save Mando in Season 1, he ends up succumbing to whatever forces they were that had to, however the Force works. I don't know exactly how the Force works, but apparently it beat up Baby Yoda and he passed out for quite some time. These are all struggles that happen to our protagonists, things connected to our protagonists, like the Razor Crest. That makes this interesting. Seemingly, what might seem as contrary to a less skilled writer than perhaps is Jon Favreau, less skilled writers, maybe such as those which worked on the Disney sequel trilogy, these episodes showing our protagonists and those things connected to our protagonists struggling, instead of simply showing up and winning the day, makes them seem more powerful as opposed to less, because our audience gets to be more invested in the scene, gets to feel the struggle of the protagonist, and eventually the victory itself, as opposed to any of the protagonists, besides Finn, strangely, in the new Star Wars series, who just show up and win things, show up and kill, show up and dominate. That is poor storytelling and makes our character seem, ironically so, weaker, because the suspension of disbelief is eradicated. We don't buy into the characters, we don't buy into the struggle, we don't buy into the plot, the story, any of these things. So it is interesting to see even the ship connected to the Mandalorian struggling along the way. But back to that, whether or not these new Mandalorians are Mandalorian enough for the Mandalorian, it seems to me that the Bo-Katan Katie Sackhoff tribe, I can't remember exactly what it was that they introduced themselves as, they are sort of, so the Mandalorian is Catholic, basically, to Mandalore, And these new Mandalorians are, it seems, Anglican, believing in one Mandalore at most. If you catch that reference, please leave me something in the comments to let me know that you've been along those rides as well. But one thing that is interesting, when they are discussing the strategy for the mission on which they will find themselves in this episode, it is noted that surprise will be necessary. Now, the first place my mind went was not that they're going to jump on the ship while it's moving. There wasn't a whole lot of surprise there. If you're going to sack a ship, that's how you sack a ship. Sack off. Katie sack off a ship. So that wasn't really surprise. But the one thing that I thought was going to happen was that the Mandalorians, the blue armor Mandalorians, the blue team, the blue squad, I'm exposing myself as not a Star Wars guy, I understand, I'm sorry. The blue squad was going to take off their helmets. This would be something that Puritanism disallows. That Puritanism would disallow that type of surprise, which is in itself ironically surprising, because what the Mandalorians are all about, is utility, utilitarianism, stoicism. What about this type of armor would scream stoicism when stoicism says, you don't need it. You don't need anything but what you need. And in this situation, what you need is to get through with that goddamn mission, which means maybe taking off the helmet. So it is a strange sort of contradiction, or a strange... It's not really a contradiction, is it? It's a strange little mechanism inside the Mandalorian lore that's going on there. These Mandalorians who have defected and started their own sect, the Blue Squad, is somewhat more utilitarian while being less not authoritative. I'm not sure. I want to revert to religious terms here, but I'm not sure that it's most appropriate. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. The next thing, this episode is titled The Heiress. Is the Heiress in reference to Katie Sackhoff? Because if I'm not mistaken, one of the bits of lore to which I am privy is that Bo-Katan had the Darksaber. The Darksaber is wielded by whoever it is that unites and rules the Mandalorians. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's exactly how it goes. I'm not sure, but I think this is exactly right. I think that's how it goes. So the Heiress would be in reference to Katie Sackhoff. But I wonder if there is some bit of double play with the meaning going on, as there is with the Mandalorian being our titular character, the Mandalorian in the episodes, as well as perhaps Baby Yoda himself. Maybe the Mandalorian refers to Baby Yoda himself, but is the Heiress referring to Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan? Or is it perhaps also in reference to the wrestler lady who's in this episode? I don't know her name either. It's interesting that this show is so set on casting female fighters, right? That is interesting. But is the title in reference to her? Maybe being Bo-Katan's second in charge, as maybe Bo-Katan is destined for the grave in this series. I don't know. No, that's not right. Rosario Dawson didn't play a fighter in anything, I don't think. But Rosario Dawson is to whom the Mandalorian is being directed in this episode. I think we're going to see Bo-Katan probably in future episodes. I think that it was just announced that Boba Fett is going to get his own series as well. And the speculation is he's going to be going up against the Mandalorian. I don't think that's right. I'm assuming he's going to be going up against the Bo-Katan Blue Squad, whatever they're called. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn. All right. I'm new to the whole Star Wars lore thing. Okay. Uh, Speaking of new to the Star Wars lore thing, we get our first taste, as far as I can remember, in this series of some rock music. As the ship that they're, I think it's the ship that they're breaking onto, is taking off. We get what is essentially Mando synth, which I think is an interesting term. Um, I hope I made that up. We get in this episode also a return to the idea of the Mandalorians as predators, the Mandalorians as the scary, the bad guy in a horror film, right? We got a little bit of that in season one, especially the episode where Mando has broken onto the prison ship. We get a little bit of that there where he's basically Jason hunting down the guys who turned on him. We get a little bit of that here as well. It is most notable to me when we are in the cockpit, and the guy's reporting to the guys in the cockpit, and he says they're Mandalorians, and they get that worried look on their face, right? And they know they're in for something. That is good storytelling. One thing that surprised me, I'm pretty sure all the Imperial bad guys in the history of Star Wars, this has always been a joke, in fact, I think, sort of like the red shirts in Star Trek, and the fact that the stormtroopers can't hit anything, have not the main bad guys always had British accents? We don't get that here with the guy Titus Welliver, I think was his name. I looked it up. It's Titus Welliver. I know that. I don't know why I said I think. Titus Welliver didn't even attempt a British accent, and the two co-pilots, there was only one part where I noticed a somewhat shaky British accent on one of them. But to sort of wink and nod to that tradition, Katie Sackhoff, when she is confronting via the little messenger thing the guys in the cockpit, she says, "Put some tea on." Which it is ironic that she is saying that to the first bad guys that I know of. I'm probably wrong, but in the Star Wars universe without a British accent. Oh, no. Emo goth guy from the new series didn't have, Adam Driver didn't have a British accent either, I don't think. So another downfall for the Disney series. One thing that left me utterly disappointed in this episode, we have that great big cargo area of the ship where there's just guns galore, and boy do they look cool. And you mean to tell me that Mando didn't even snag a 1 on the way out? I refuse to believe it. So I have to believe. So it struck me very early in this episode that this would have been, in video game terms, through which this series has often been described. This series has a lot in common with the video game era of storytelling, with the video game medium of storytelling, maybe if you want to say it that way. This would have been a great episode to gain a piece of equipment. And I thought we were getting the perfect opportunity to do that with an entire room full of guns, but we didn't. But I have to believe deep down inside that he snagged something on the way out, and we will see it employed in a future episode, even if he didn't show it on the way out of the ship. Which, by the way, I have to admit, the special effects in this episode were stupendous. When the ship is plucked from the water and sort of the city skylines, water physics, the stuff keeps coming out of the ship. That was impressive. It looked very real. And again, when the Mandalorian jumps off the ship and free falls until he takes off. I thought that both of those things were well done and would have been very easy to see faults in the special effects if the effects were not there, if that makes any sense. Baby Yoda graduated from the child seat. Now, perhaps it could be written off as, well, that it was damaged, but he graduated from the baby seat. I think maybe storytelling-wise, going forward, we're going to see a little bit more from him a little bit more proactivity out of Baby Yoda, because you get Baby Yoda, I believe, for the first time in the series, off on his own, making friends. He's growing up as he is with the frog family, and he fits in. He doesn't eat their child. I think that is the first time we see that from Baby Yoda. So I imagine Jon Favreau strikes me as a very competent storyteller, strikes me as someone who is willing and able to delve not just into the mythos of the series, such as Star Wars, but also into the mythos of storytelling, something like The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. I think he's going to hit some of those notes along the way, as, after all, what could be more Star Wars than The Hero with a Thousand Faces, than Joseph Campbell? The hero's journey, things like that. One final question from the episode. What was it that fell off of the ship at the end of the episode? You saw it wobbling off into space. I'm not sure what that was. If anyone knows, let me know. I don't know if that is something we are supposed to focus on simply for giggles. It was just, hey, something's fallen off the Razor Crest again. Or if it was something that we are supposed to know about. It is interesting to me. I should have said this earlier. The Razor Crest all is getting beat up in the same way that is the Mandalorian, as is Baby Yoda. We keep seeing surprises from Baby Yoda. We keep seeing the Mandalorian upgrading his armor. Eventually, this is going to come back in the way of the ship. The ship is going to be upgraded. The ship is going to be piece by piece put back together, piece by piece upgraded from what it was in a very Grand Theft Auto fashion, in a very video game style. So I think that is something worth keeping an eye on as well. This was a short episode. I think that is going to draw some ire from individuals around the internet because they have waited an entire week for their Mandalorian fix, and here it is, only around 30 and a half minutes, right? And especially when you add into that the credits are about 19 minutes long and the introduction's about 30 minutes long, so we've got a negative 19-minute episode on our hands. But I thought that this was the best episode of the series so far. I really enjoyed this series. There was action like you want, there was choreography like you want, there were little gags like you want, there was danger and peril like you want, there was expanding the universe with the Blue Squad. There was all of these things going on. Despite the fact that it was a shorter episode and you got a new world, like I said at the end of the reviews for season 1, which I don't know if I ever even got those episodes finished. You're going to have to ignore the heater just came on. I hope this isn't overpowering. But at the end of the season 1, we get an expansion of the universe in a way. I don't remember what I was saying. I'm going to be very, very honest with you. We got a lot of expansion of the universe in this episode. We got a lot of expansion of the universe during the first series, the first season. I'm just going to move on because I don't have it. I think what we're doing here is we're giving the Mandalorian a lot of time alone in the first few episodes of the series. In order to extend the series, I think what had become obvious was that the Mandalorian was becoming Baby Yoda's show, and I don't think that was the goal. So we are moving along through these series of episodes with Baby Yoda spending a lot of time other places. And I think we're doing that to prolong the series and to give Baby Yoda what will be his own series with Rosario Dawson's character. I can't remember her name right now. Again, I'm trying. I'm not a Star Wars guy. These names are all weird to me. It's out there. I'm attempting it. The final thing I want to talk about is Katie Sackhoff and Titus Welliver. They were fantastic. Katie Sackhoff was super intimidating. That lady's going to kick your ass. And Titus Welliver just exuded this series. Titus Welliver is a guy, I've never seen him before, I don't think. I had to look him up. He's made for guy series. He's made to be in the Old West. He's made to be in the Army. He's made to be he looks like Arlie Ermey's lost cousin, right? All of these things. I am looking forward. I'm assuming they're going to be in the Disney repertoire moving forward. Imagine if Captain Marvel were Katie Sackhoff. How much better she could have sold that movie and that role. But I am looking forward to, hopefully, with both of them being in the Disney Rolodex, they will show up in the Marvel universe. I don't think either of them has. I don't think so. But that is all I have for this, the review reaction to the Heiress as it took place on Season 2 and Episode 3 of The Mandalorian.